Welcome to Soul Cafe. We are in the most hardest to pronounce Bible book in the Old Testament, Ecclesiastes. Say that 10 times real fast, see how you do with it. But we've been having a wonderful time these last 8 weeks. Hope you're with us tonight or sometime during the week when you're rewatching this as we post it up. We're in Ecclesiastes chapter 5. So whether you're watching this alone or with a group of friends or in a small group, we're just happy to have you, and I want you just to enjoy what God is going to say through His Word. We're doing a series called The Secrets of Success. We've looked at a lot of principles about success. Last week was relational success. We've looked at career success. We've looked at interpersonal relationship success. Tonight, we're going to look at money madness, that is success in your finances. So let's jump in, Ecclesiastes chapter 5, and we're going to begin tonight with verse 10. Here's what Solomon says. He says, "Whoever loves money never has enough." Amen, brother. Wouldn't you agree with me? Whoever has money, there is never enough. I mean, just about the time you think you're doing well, the end of the month comes and the end of your money's already run out. One of the men that I've often looked at and tried to understand principles from his life, he was an interesting guy, not always the right kind of man, but he ended his life well. John D. Rockefeller was born in July 8, 1839, died May 23rd, 1937, and many of you may know from history he was the founder of Standard Oil, which became the largest oil refinery in the world in his day. He became the world's first billionaire. Yes, billionaire. He amassed a net worth of $1 billion in 1916, which was unheard of in that day. And when he died in 1937, he had an estimated net worth of $340 billion in today's equivalency. By the age of 25, though, he had the largest oil refinery in the United States. 25, mind you, 25. How about your 25-year-old if you have them that old? What are they doing right now? They're still paying off student loans. This guy owned the biggest oil refineries in America. He was 31 when he became the world's largest oil refiner. At 38, he controlled 90% of the oil refining in the United States. And at 50, he was America's richest man. Everything he did was crafted to gain wealth, keep wealth, and multiply his wealth. But at the age of 53, he felt unwell. His whole body was racked with pain. He lost all of his hair. He couldn't eat. In fact, his advisors, often talking about him, said he did not sleep at night. He could only eat soup and crackers. He would not smile. Nothing in life meant anything to him. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? The richest man in America, and he could not enjoy it. His doctors came to him and said, "Mr. Rockefeller, you're going to die by the age of 53. You've got a year to live. And so prepare, get your life in order." And this just disturbed him greatly because he had everything. But even though he had everything, he could not buy his own imminent death and rescue himself. Health could not be bought. So as he went on throughout that last year of his life, he became increasingly more convinced that life had to be more than just money and possessions and big homes and owning things all across the world. And so he called together all of his advisors and he established what we know today as the Rockefeller Foundation. He gave the first money that became the seed money for the discovery of penicillin. He founded some of the largest universities and endowments and all kinds of art galleries, and many cultural things that we enjoy today were because of his foundation. I want you to listen, though, how he closed his life. Now, remember, he's supposed to die at 53, but he survived to 98 years of age. Because at 53, when he started giving away everything that he had, when he started giving away and investing as a philanthropist, when he began to give rather than just take, his body chemistry changed. In fact, his doctors called it just, they'd never seen anything like it. Because as he gave, rather than just consuming, everything about him began to change. And he lived, get this now, another 45 years after the doctors thought he would end his life, simply because he changed the way that he was living, his mindset about money. Before he died, he wrote these words in his diary: "God taught me that everything belongs to him, and I'm merely a conduit to carry out his will. My life has been one long happy holiday since then. Notice it says, since then. Not when he had all the billions, but since he began to use money the right way. He said he had had this long, ongoing happy holiday ever since. Full of work and play. I let go of my worries along the road. God has been wonderful to me every day of my life. Now, what is he saying? And what is Solomon saying when he says again in verse 10, whoever loves money, it's never enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. Let me give you some money matters. This is on your outline, fbcde.com. You can go there and fill in the blanks if you want to. But here's some principles about money I want to give you tonight. Number one, when the rich gain power, they often rule over and deny justice to the poor. Now, you call this the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. We're seeing that even in our country today. And a lot of that is not because the rich are just keeping it all. In fact, many of the richest people in the world are giving away their money. You think of Warren Buffett, and you think of Bill Gates and some of these guys who are now divesting themselves of 90% of their money and giving it away. And so it's not that, it's just that rich people know how to leverage their money. And poor people often only spend their money rather than saving some of it and letting the law of compounding work to gain wealth. Now, what this means, what Solomon is trying to say here is he says in verse 11, as goods increase, so do those who consume them. What benefit are they to the owners except to feast their eyes on them? Well, what is he talking about in these verses about money? He's simply saying this, two things. One is the rich need to be generous, because money really doesn't bring you happiness. That's what John D. Rockefeller discovered. It was only when he gave away his money that he discovered true happiness. But secondly, the poor cannot let injustice, and you're always going to have injustice in the world. There's always going to be a gap between the rich and the poor. There's always going to be people that have more than you have. But you can't let that injustice be an excuse to stay under the weight of oppression and not personally move up in the economic world. That's an important statement. I want to say it one more time. Do not allow yourself to use what you perceive as injustice to keep you down where you are economically. So Solomon is trying to tell us something. First of all, oftentimes when the rich gain power, they can misuse their income. And so he's saying, don't do it. But he's saying, poor people, those who are struggling financially, don't use that as an excuse not to do something about your economic situation. Here's number two. There's a limit as to how much one can continue to consume on themselves to make themselves happy. There's a limit to how much you can make and continue to make and feel like you're going to continue to get more and more happy because you're making more. In fact, Solomon had the most money. He was the wisest man. He had more women than any other man in the world. He had it all and still said, meaningless of meaningless, vanity of vanities. It didn't satisfy his soul. Listen, folks, more money does not mean more joy. Now, can you do more things with money? Sure you can. Do you have less worry when you have money in the bank? Of course. But just because you have money does not bring you joy. That's what Solomon is trying to help us to understand. Because a lot of times when people get money, they lose it just as quickly. Look at the big athletes. Look at these boxers over the decades who gained millions of dollars. Mike Tyson, for example, and lost it all. Look at these football players who get multi-million-dollar contracts, and when they get out of football, they lose it all. I mean, the fact is, folks, money comes and money goes. You can't do anything about it sometimes, so you have to manage what you have. Here's the third thing that Solomon gives us. We see this in verse 12. The sleep of the labor is sweet, where they eat little or much, but as for the rich, their abundance permits them no sleep. Here's the third thing on your outline. More worries often come with more wealth. I mean, just because you gain more money means oftentimes that you're going to try to buy more stuff. I go to people's houses and I see all this stuff in their garage or a boat in the backyard. Say, how often do you use that? Or people buy their kids a trampoline. How often do they get on it? Not very often. Don't take the boat out because it's broke. Can't afford to fix it. Got all this stuff in the garage. I might need it one day. I'm saving for a rainy day. We get more and more stuff. But the more things we have, the more we need to maintain. Right? The more things you pack into your life, the more things you've got to manage in your life. In fact, I put it this way: the more toys I have, the more toys I need to repair and maintain. So the Bible is just simply trying to help us understand that, guys, in life, just getting more isn't going to make you more happy, isn't going to bring more joy, and it's often a headache because you've got more things you have to deal with. Here's the fourth thing that says in outline. We see this in verses 13 through 15. Those who clutch can easily crash. That's a great statement. Those who clutch can easily crash. Here's verse 13 through 15. Solomon says, I've seen a grievous evil under the sun, wealth hoarded to the harm of its owners, wealth lost through some misfortune, so that when they have children, there's nothing left for them to inherit. Everyone comes naked from their mother's womb. As everyone comes, so they depart. They can take nothing from their toil that they can carry in their hands. A lot of times when we try to clutch, look at a baby. What do? When they're born, they often clutch their hands. And many people live their entire lives with their hands clutched. Jesus put it this way. He said, live your life with open hands. Open up your hands and your heart to people that are in need. Jesus said, take care of the poor. Invest in people that life is not being as kind to them as it is to you. That is the source of happiness. You try to clutch everything, you try to hoard it, you try to hold on to it, it can easily go away. And when you die, you're not taking any of it with you anyway. Number 5 on your outline, verses 18 through 20. Enjoy life at whatever level you're on. Listen to these verses. Let's actually start with verse 16. This too is a grievous evil, as everyone comes, so they depart. What do they gain for all their toil of the wind? All their days they eat in darkness, with great frustration and affliction and anger. This is what I observe to be good. It's appropriate for a person to eat and to drink and to find satisfaction in their toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them, for that is their lot. What is Solomon saying? He's saying this: whatever level you're on economically, enjoy life there. Become content. Doesn't mean you stay at that level, but it means you become content. You realize that everything you have is from God. And God is going to bring more into your life as you're able to handle it. Jesus put it this way: how can I entrust more to you if you can't handle the little that I've given you? If you're spending everything you've got, if you're not giving to the Lord the first 10% of what you've got, if you're doing all these things, guys, you got to understand that God's not going to give you more until you handle correctly what you already have. So enjoy where you are with what you have, whether it's little or whether it's much. That's what Solomon's saying is the key to successful happiness in life. So what do we mean by that? Let me close with this. Let me give you some principles of economics that I've learned over the last 45 years. Here's the first thing. Take ownership of your economic future and condition. Do not, listen folks, do not be lazy when it comes to money. And so many people are. I just see people all the time who are financially struggling because they don't manage their money correctly. It doesn't matter whether they make $1,000 a month or $100,000 a month. I've seen people that make millions that cannot manage it. I've seen people that make $1,000 a month and they cannot manage it. You are responsible for your economic condition and your economic future. Take responsibility for it. What does that mean? Here's the second thing on your outline. Start paying down your debt with intentionality. Never put vacations and eating out and groceries on credit cards. Stop doing it unless you get miles for it and you pay it off at the end of the month. But guys, don't swipe unless you're going to pay it off at the end of the month. I mean, listen. If you've got credit card balances, do what Dave Ramsey said. Start paying the one that has the least amount on it first. Get it paid off, get a win, then take what you were paying on that first credit card, put it on the second one, and start paying that down even more. Here's what a lot of people do. They pay off a credit card, and they say, oh, free money now. I'm always paying $200 a month. I don't have to pay that now. You can use it for whatever I want. No, pay it on the next debt until you're debt free. There's nothing more valuable than the freedom of not being in debt. I mean, other than your house, guys, you should not be in debt because the borrower is slave to the lender. And guys, I tell people all the time, they come to me and say, well, how can I invest like you do? How can I make more money? Here's how you do it. I want to show you how you can make, like right now, like 18 to 20%. Wouldn't you like that on your money? Here's how you do it. First of all, you pay cash for a car instead of financing a car at 8 to 10% interest. Then you put that in a mutual fund or some type of money market account and get 8 to 10% on that money, and you just made 20%. How? Because you're not paying 10% on a loan, and you put it in a fund. I just looked at my fund this morning before I came to church, and I'm so far this year I'm making almost 11% on that fund. So I don't pay the car payment, which is 8 to 10% more if you have bad credit. I'm making 10 to 12% on my money. So right there, I'm making 20%. People would die to make 20% on their money. I've just showed you how to do it. But listen, most of you are not, because you're going out and you're financing a car, you're putting things on credit cards that you really do not need. And let me just give you just a general slap, spiritual slap right now. Can I give you a spiritual slap? Quit getting in debt. If you want to live free, if you want wealth, if you want the joy of freedom of your own time. People say all the time, well, I got to work. No, you don't have to work overtime. You're working overtime because you got student loans, because you put things on credit cards, because you're financing 2 cars. I'm telling you, I'm going to get under your skin. The fingernails are going to rake on the blackboard right now, because many of you are frustrated financially, and it's your own fault because you're getting yourself in debt. Live free. Now, there's just sometimes, folks, because of unforeseen medical bills, you're going to be in debt in the medical area. I understand that. I'm talking about the normal things we do in life. Vacations, eating out, swipe, swipe, swipe. Buying that car, swipe, big loan, 72 months. That is bondage. So, get out of debt and stay out of debt. That's how you live in freedom, and that's when you have time. Time is my most precious commodity right now. I could care less how much money I've got. Time is and you know why I can enjoy time and I can do what I want with my time? Because I'm financially free. Can I just say it? Can I just be honest with you right now? It's not money. People say, well, I want to make money like you do. No, you don't, because you're not willing to pay the price. You're not willing to get out of debt. You're not willing to work 2 jobs like I have all my life. You're just not willing to do it. When you're willing to do that, come see me. I'll help you do it. But folks, you've got to make some choices. You've got to make some decisions if you want to live in freedom and enjoy the joy of having free time. Here's the third thing quickly. Tithe your income. Your gross income. That is before taxes through the local church that you attend. Always pay God first. Malachi 3, you've heard this verse many, many times. Verses 8 through 10 says, prove me in this. Tithe. Bring your tithe into the storehouse, God says. The storehouse is the place where you worship. Give it to God. But then God says, but Israel, you're robbing me because you keep back your tithes and offerings. Friends, I'm going to say, you get on God's bad side when you don't tithe. You frustrate the favor of God falling on your life when you do not tithe. And I know a lot of people are going to say, I can't afford to tithe. Listen, you cannot afford not to tithe, because you're not enjoying the favor of God if you don't pay God first. That's what tithing is. Tithing, Deuteronomy says, teaches me to trust God. So when I write as my check, as I did this morning coming to church, my first thing I wrote was my tithe to the Lord. Now, is there other things I need to pay? Yes. Is there other things I want to do? Is there other vacations? Yes. But I paid God first. That's why I live in freedom. That's why I have the freedom of time. So tithe your income. Here's number 4. We're going to wrap up with these last 2. Be generous. Bless people. Always have cash in your pocket where you can bless people. Bless somebody by buying them a meal. Bless a kid by giving them a candy bar out of the vending machine. Just bless people. Be a blesser. John D. Rockefeller found this out. So can you. You're not a billionaire. You don't have any air, but you can be a generous person and enjoy the favor of God. Here's number 5, save for retirement. 40% of all baby boomers have nothing in the bank saved for retirement. And the fastest growing age group in America is 100 and above. Listen, retirement is not about relaxation. It's about release. It's about enjoying the time, doing what you want to do. And it may be you work a little longer. It may be that you don't retire. It may be that you don't live at the level that you once lived at. But folks, you got to save for retirement now. I tell people all the time, if you can save 15% of your income from about age 30 to about age 65, you'll have $5 million in your retirement account. Just by saving consistently, month after month, and putting that money aside. And then finally, invest with intentionality. Invest with intentionality. I always tell people, if you get extra income, government sends you a surplus check, you get a bonus at work, put it in your retirement account, because you've got three buckets: the bills you got to pay, money that you put in a bucket for unexpected emergencies, the dryer breaks down. Thirdly, retirement, putting money into a mutual fund, putting it into a money market account if you don't want to put it into mutual funds, putting it into a U.S. Treasury bond, which is backed by the U.S. government at 4 to 5%. Get that kind of yield. Don't put your money in a checking account that doesn't pay some kind of interest. Don't put your money in a savings account. Guys, look, you're making 0.01%. Put it into a CD and let it just let it grow. The law of compounding interest will grow your wealth, but you've got to be disciplined to do it. And then finally, last thing I want to say to us, you've got to decide what kind of person you want to be. Whether you want to be free or frustrated when it comes to money. Solomon says a lot of people are going to be frustrated because they don't manage their money correctly. And Solomon has given us some principles very quickly tonight that I gave them to you on how to live financially free. So here's one of 5 type of people you can be right now. You decide which one you are, which one you want to be. Number 1, strivers. Those who consume rather than conserve. They're just always living paycheck to paycheck. Number 2, arrivers. Former strivers who, with some discipline and some knowledge, begin to invest their money in a way that it grows rather than goes. Then there's thrivers. Those who multiply and leverage their assets, and through leverage gain even more through mutual funds or through investing in businesses or real estate investment funds. Number 4, survivors. These are thrivers who become fixated on the return of their money rather than the return on their money. Their thinking becomes, I just got to hang on. These are usually people about my age getting ready to retire and saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? They're just trying to hang on rather than living in freedom. And then fifthly, divers. And these are people that hold on to their money and don't plan ahead and are not faithful in putting money aside to investments and not saving for retirement. And these are the people that get to the end of their lives and their money runs out before their life does. And they live in just total, complete, abject frustration. Here's my question to you, just with our eyes closed. Which one of those are you? Are you a striver that's just consuming everything that you have and not saving and not putting things back and not conserving a portion of what you make so you can live in freedom? Are you an arriver? People who are learning some principles about how to grow your money rather than just simply saying bye-bye to it? Are you a thriver? People that are investing in assets and mutual funds or some type of business, and through the leverage of their money, they're growing their money? Are you a survivor who's just fixated upon your money and trying to hang on till Jesus comes? Or are you a diver who just basically are coming to the end of your last run around the bases, and because you were not faithful in the principles of financial management in your earlier decades, you're just barely going to survive? Man, that's not a fun way to live. So right now, would you just make a commitment? Would you just say, Lord, I'm going to start putting a 10% back for you and giving it every time I go to worship, or send it in online if I can't go to worship. I'm going to be a tither. I want to enjoy the favor of God. And then, Lord, I'm going to take another 10% and I'm going to put it in some type of investment or mutual funds. And Lord, that is going to be money that is going to compound to make me wealthy one day. And then, Lord, I'm going to take a certain percentage of my money and put it into savings for those emergencies that come up, that unexpected medical bill, that car that I need to buy in 2 or 3 years so I don't have to finance it, or so I can live in freedom. And then, Lord, I'm going to choose to live on the 70 to 75% of what's left over. Because, Lord, I want to live in freedom and favor rather than frustration. If that's your commitment tonight, what action will you take when you leave to go home, or when you turn off this particular video? What are you going to do right now? Just with your eyes closed, your heart before God. What are you going to do? Start paying down debt? Take on a second job so you can get that debt paid off much more quickly? What are you going to do so that you can live in freedom in the days to come? That's the question I want to leave you with tonight. Lord, give us wisdom as we do. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, guys, we're going to show our giving slide up right now. And For those of you that are regular tithers, those of you that need to start tithing, this is your opportunity to give. There's different ways to give through texting and through our website and through different avenues that we have, our app, our FBCD app. We pray that God will just multiply who you are for His glory this week. See you next week at Soul Cafe.